Welcome to the Produce on Purpose podcast, where we experience life being the real you. Today, we have a great guest. His name is Rand Selig, an accomplished entrepreneur coach, scoutmaster, board member, and roll up your sleeves, a conservationist. Shares his extensive expertise in his book, Thriving: How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and a More Prosperous Life. With an MBA from Stanford and an undergraduate degree in mathematics and psychology, he excels at managing complex projects globally. He's relentlessly positive and believes he can design his own life and others can too. Based in Mill Valley, California, he enjoys his life's adventures with his wife of 42 years. Rand, it is so great to have you on the show. How are you today?
Very well, Randy. It's great to be here with you today.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you have done a lot. You've gone through different parts of the life. We've kind of talked about that. I always love to start off with an introduction to the audience of who you are from your own voice and telling us, how your journey has been and how you got to where you are and your message.
Well, I have had a marvelous life, and a part of that has been overcoming some challenges and some obstacles. I think I've become stronger and better because of those obstacles, and I'm just absolutely committed to being of service. This has been a huge element to the company I've run for almost 40 years now. It's not about necessarily, getting a fee. Those are nice. I appreciate that. That's terrific. But it's really showing up, listening hard to my client, understanding what they need, and being absolutely full of honesty and integrity and sometimes even vulnerability about what we can do and asking them big questions sometimes they have never really taken the time to think about. What is it that you're really trying to accomplish? What are you worried about? How are we going to work together to uh, accomplish and meet your objectives, exceed your objectives? So service has been a huge thing. It's been a gift from my parents, and I appreciate it very much. It's made my life full of vitality.
That is awesome about service, and you kind of started to tee the ball up, I think, for our conversation today. It takes a lot to be of service, and it sounds like you must have a good listening ear. And so my question to you, obviously, in order to be of service to anyone, how did you go about being able to listen and find out, I guess, what to serve and how to serve?
Well, there's a couple of different questions there, Randy. I was not a great listener. I was a big talker. And in fact, I even today have to remind myself, wait a minute, stop talking and ask a question, and then listen to the answer, maybe follow up with another question. You know what you're going to say, or sometimes you don't. But what's much more important is to listen and engage. And at the right time, people come back and say, "Hey, Rand, I'm interested in you. Could you explain or talk about something in your experience, something about how you've navigated?" There's a time for that, and in the right kind of relationship, there's abundant amount of time for that.
Yeah.
Service, you had a second part of that, Randy, which was this question of service. I started as a young fellow. I think even in high school, I took on a number of responsibilities in high school, including being the uh, yearbook editor in chief. Big job. And what was fantastic about that was, there's a distinction which I draw out in my book. There's a difference between being a leader and being a manager. And a leader has vision. A leader creates alignment. A leader allows people to come in and add more color and definition to that vision. The manager is the one who gets things done, and it's an operating level of efficiency. Well, in my high school experience as editor-in-chief, I was a fantastic leader. Wow, the yearbook people are still, especially during reunion cycles, coming back saying, thank you so much. It's a fantastic yearbook. But the management of the enterprise, whoa, I did not do all that well. And that was just really good because I said, well, I need to study. I need to get better. I need to start listening. I need to start doing a lot of things. It took, frankly, many years for me to get sort of ahead of that curve. I'm still working.
That is, it brings up another question for me. I've often heard that sometimes people are born leaders, and you're talking about, I guess, gaining some skill sets as a manager. Do you feel that you can also gain skill sets as a leader as well as a manager, or what is that? What parts of those that is really just innately something someone's born with?
Well, I think there's some personality components that probably line up for both leadership and management. Um, and uh, but I think they're both learned. I don't think anybody pops out of the womb, yeah, even remotely ready to be a leader or a manager. I think you got to work at it. You got to go through the cauldron, which sometimes is pretty hot, pretty uncomfortable, pretty maybe even painful. And then if you're going to be big enough, you're going to learn from that experience. And you say, look, I got to be honest that to yourself and maybe to other people around you. That wasn't great, and I'm going to do better. I'm committed to doing better. I'm committed to evolving in my skill set. Um, yeah.
That's one of the interesting things that I've learned as well as doing different leadership roles and kind of going through different types of positions is this necessary need to kind of pull in and learn of what your connection is and your communication. How does communication play a role in being the right type of leader and manager that you need to be, and to get to that space where I know you said initially with the yearbook you had some execution issues. How do you get over those kinds of things?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Communication is very much at the heart of both. And for what it's worth, Stephen Covey, just phenomenal fellow, talked about the difference between leadership and management. He said managers uh, are uh, are climbing the ladder to build operational efficiency. A leader is making sure the ladder is set on the right wall.
I like that.
So this really points to this question of vision of are we doing the right things as opposed to just doing them right.
Right.
And I think this is a huge arena. I think maybe never met somebody who's really good leader and manager. It's a rare combination, and that's fine. That's fine. There's so much need for each that just go and then start honing and perfecting. But back to the communication point, you just really have to be clear about your communication. You gotta. I talk about managing up, so that means could be with parents, it could be with bosses, where you have to say, here's what's going on, here's what I need to do my job better. Um, can you help me to get that? Those kind of communications are very big. Being vulnerable also is a big part of this communication cycle where you say, I don't know everything. Now, if you've done well, and often that runs along lines of having a pretty good self-esteem, maybe ego, hopefully right-sized ego, uh, being honest and being vulnerable, have to stretch for that. You have to say, okay, I don't have to know everything. And people have said to me, when you admit with your incredible experience, especially doing complex transactions, that you don't know the answer. So you have several different scenarios, and we have to work together to figure out which one's going to be the best. People say we respect you just that much more. That's possible. We're going to respect you that much more. Appreciate that integrity.
That is a nugget to understand that we don't know everything, and that as we're going along this path, it's being willing to hear, listen, be vulnerable, and try to seek to understand, and being able to say, I need help. I have learned that if even if you're managing up or just with someone maybe that you feel is working with you, or working under you, you ask for help. And if you ask for help, people are willing and more than likely want to help, because that's what you, if you say that to them, they're like, yes, we want to help. We want to be able to help you get through that and put that in. So you have this great book called Thriving. And as we've been talking, I know some of those tenets of leadership and management are in there. However, you also talk about this portion about designing your own life. Can you share a little bit about how we can design our own life?
Designing your own life is, I think, the heart a beat of living a great life. You're making decisions about what's important to you based on your values, based on your preferences, based on what makes you smile. And there's a lot of life that comes at us that you can jump on and say, okay, but it's just okay. It's just okay. It's not great. And maybe you take on a job and you say, well, I don't love what the company does, and I don't really love my team or the boss, but I'll do it for a while. I'll try to make the best of it. Well, I understand that happens. That happens a lot. Sometimes for financial reasons or logistics or something going on in your life. You say, I'm going to do that. But the design of your own life is a big picture deal. It's part of this personal leadership. We were talking about leadership before. This is the key component of leading personally. You say, what's important? And how am I going to do that? What does that look like? And that might mean engaging with a partner, a life partner or a business partner. Say, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm excited about. This is what just brings energy to me. And when I'm really in that place of designing my own life, then I'm creative. I'm seeing around the corner with my little finger, the eyeball at the end of my finger, saying, "Wow, yeah, I'm doing that." And it's a very, very rich part of life. It's getting off the conveyor. It's getting off of what everybody else is saying and what society is saying is important to you. You say, okay, well, that's great. And, I've touched on some of those things, but here's my life design. I'm going to execute it. I'm going to, and I'm going to adjust. Life is full of experiments. Sometimes those experiments work well. And, we know all of us are a little bit of a scientist. Sometimes the experiment doesn't work. So you got to tune, you got to adjust. That's fine. That's good.
Experiment. We should experiment.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that flies in the face of how we were taught in school. We were told you got to get it all right so you can get the A.
Yeah.
But if we said, hey, but teacher, I was just experimenting, they would look at us like, what? But in real life, when we experiment, we learn from those experiences. I do software, and one of our tenets is agile. We call agile. It means you iterate, and at the end, you always come back and you do a retrospective, or you look at and say, what did we do well? What didn't we do well? What shouldn't we do anymore? That reminds me of that in life. If you are doing that in your own life and you apply that to your life to experiment, it also falls into what I've heard of is called experiential learning. So you just kind of go out and you start learning new things because you're going out and you're experiencing it, but you're pulling back every time you do something, you're learning something new. Share with me a little more about this experimentation and how maybe an example of how I could design my own life, because I think a lot of times for us, we're designing someone else's life that we may have seen on television. Maybe mom and dad told us we should be. How do we begin to really feel those things that we know will light us up, as you said?
Well, I think my life. I say I've designed my own life, and I can point to many examples of this, and they're not so amazing or earth shaking. They're just I've stayed with the course, and they're great. One was starting my own company. I was working for the first dozen years after finishing business school at big firms, and I didn't like meetings. I frankly didn't have much respect for some of my bosses. I wanted to be left alone. Those are the best bosses who left me alone and said, let me know when you need something. Those are
Hmm.
great. Well, I didn't have those bosses all the time. So then I said to myself, wait a minute, maybe I should just go off and become a forest ranger. So I did a deep dive into what was really important to me and asking questions like, who are my heroes? Well, Tarzan was one of my heroes. So, and I said, I'm really good at this, doing complex transactions. I want to do that, but I want to do it on my terms. I want to have my own firm. I want to be able to pick my own clients. I want to decide whether I'm going to be in fourth gear or second gear. I'm going to design it in such a way that I can also be on boards and do things in the town I live in. I want to live and work in the same town rather than be schizophrenic about it and spend hours every day, going from one place to another. Um, that was a huge design choice. Um, and part of that was I was already clear. I was in my early 30s, but I had spent a lot of years thinking about, well, who is this guy? And what do I stand for, and what will I not stand for?
Hmm.
And I said it's not all about family and work. No, it's more than that. It's about my physical health. It's
Hmm.
about my mental health. It's about being of service. So I want to be on boards. I want to be able to, you know, uh, get engaged with the world I live in. I was a scoutmaster for more than 5 years, a little league coach. These are all things I was doing at the same time I was running my own company. At the same time, I was there for dinner with my family, my kids, and having adult level conversations with them. So, and I'll throw out another one. This is a little bit of a zinger for people. I decided a plan would be that we would every 5 years take what I called a sabbatical. Now that often is referred to with people who are professors at universities or something. But I said no, it's going to be like a 3 month, maybe 4 month period of time where we go and work on a project. Whoever's hosting us has to have skin in the game. They're gonna, take care of all of our needs for the family while we're there, or pay for our airfare. So these are international projects
Hmm.
going to South Africa and Jamaica and the Yucatan Peninsula and that kind of thing. And I had to stop my company. I had to stop clients. I had to say, okay, it's coming up in 60 days. We're going to work our butts off to get this finished before I leave. Or can you wait if we're just not about to, we're about to start, but can you wait for me?
Hmm.
Everybody said, we'll wait. Or let's work hard and get it done before you leave. Um, those were phenomenal because it was a reset. It was a chance for me to regain the perspective that is so valuable to have. Again, this question of what's important, and it built our family in ways that are to this day remarkable.
That's amazing because, a lot of times what's celebrated today is people working hard, or to me, it sounds like you're just busy, and sometimes busy without a particular goal or a reason. Sounds like you're talking about designing a full life, one which includes rest, which includes eating dinner, which is a priority to you with your family, which includes, not being in a stressful situation, but you're able to make the nimble choices that are needed to continue to live that life that you wanted.
And the willingness to say no,
Yes.
the willing to invite people off my bus.
Yes. And not being afraid to do that, right? You were able
That's
to
right.
do that
That's right.
consistently.
You don't want to live through fear. You wanna live with your hopes and aspirations, not the fear and certainly not the anger. Um, part of this, another version of how I like to talk about this is so important to define success your way. Again,
Yes.
these are messages that are coming at us all the time. Make a lot of money. You know,
Hmm.
burn yourself out, retire at the youngest age you can. Well, I think a lot of those messages are really, really bad messages. In fact, I don't
Mm.
even use the word retirement anymore. I say rewirement. Think
Yes.
about what you're going to do next and engage in it. Take all that accumulated greatness that you have and apply it again and again till the very end. Have
Yes.
purpose. Have purpose. And so defining success, and especially in this robust way we were talking about, yeah, really, really makes it just shows how simplistic and in a way silly just making money is. We know
And
that's not
right.
what it's about. We know that's what it's not about. But people
Right.
have a hard time getting away from that.
Well, money is just usually a means to what people believe is going to either make them happy, give them freedom, and in most cases, the idea is let's get to the happiness, let's get to the freedom, and understand that money is not the goal, but it is just a means. It'll be helpful when you get there, but it's not something you need to focus on. I believe that it's cool to have an idea of success and defining your own success because, like you said, having others define that for you, it really does put you in a space where you may be chasing after the wrong thing, or what I would say, as you talked about the ladder before, where we had the manager getting you up the ladder, but you have the leader putting the ladder on the right wall, that you may be actually getting on a ladder that's on the wrong wall for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a very personal set of things. This is the other thing that's so important. You got to look inside. You got to really come to terms with who you are. And that could be different than who your mom or dad are, or who your spouse is, or who, your buddies are, your friends. You could be different. And that doesn't mean they're bad and have to get voted off the island. No, it just means you can be your own self and be true
Right.
to yourself.
True to yourself and true to who you really are. As we are talking, one of the main areas that I think about are relationships. I have found that relationships actually end up being one of the most important, highest priority items in my life. Because when this is all over, when I think of the end in mind, I know that my relationships are what I'm going to value the most, especially with family and those that are around me. How does forging the enduring and deep relationships fit within what you have been describing and talking about when it comes to success?
Well, I when I do some of my in-person talks, I have a poster that I pull up, and I said, "What kind of pirate do you want to be?" And people go, "Oh God, where's he going to go now?" And I say, "Do you want to treasure your possessions, or do you want to treasure your relationships?"
I like it.
See, immediately people, nod. They get it. They get it. It's just as you said, Randy. It's about those relationships. Um, I pull out a little VW bus and I say, you have to say to yourself, who is driving this bus?
Hmm.
You have to decide how fast you're going to go. You got to decide when you're going to stop, when you're going to turn right or left. You got to decide who you're going to invite on your bus. And having new friends is a really important thing. New relationships, maybe people who are older, maybe people who are younger really, really creates a whole lot of vitality. And you have to decide who you're going to invite off your bus. Your bus comes loaded with some people already. And those
Right.
people, you may have outgrown them. you may just grown apart in some way, or there could be something worse going on, and you just have to say thanks. It was interesting,
Mm.
and now leave on good terms, but move on.
Right. In understanding those relationships and what value they bring to your overall design, I believe would be very, very important. And it sounds like you also tell us a little bit about when we start to think about our emotional health
Yeah.
and how, this is something I've found out as well, is that this idea of forgiving and letting go, how does that fit within making sure that we are cultivating the right emotional health in our lives?
Well, emotional health is a huge thing, and we're getting a little more attention to it than we used to. It's one of the reasons why I'm so happy that we've had some very well-known sports figures step forward and say they're not doing well emotionally, they're not healthy, and I think if they had said that 20 years ago, people would say, "You're ridiculous, get away." But now it's opened the door to the possibility a lot of people may be like that, especially if you're under some kind of pressure of some type. Billie Jean King says pressure's a privilege. Well, it is. I can testify to that, but it's not easy to get there and hold it that way.
Right.
I like to think of three parts of emotional health. And although I do have a degree in psychology, I'm not a licensed character. Uh, so one of them is to stop self-sabotaging. So much damage you can do to yourself by really not even getting into the game. You don't apply for a job, you don't pursue a new relationship. You just say, "I can't. I'm not good at that," and so you don't do it. That if you catch yourself, you hear yourself saying it, just say to yourself, "No, that's not necessarily true. I'm going to try, even if it's a 1 in 100 chance that something good will come out. Give yourself a chance. Go ahead,
Hmm.
do it." A second one is forgiving. Uh, Forgiving is a huge thing. I think a lot of people accumulate things through their lives, and so it's a big suitcase they're carrying around. It's a heavy suitcase that is things that they feel somebody did something to them, and it hurt them, it embarrassed them, it made them feel bad, and what they need to do is move on. They need to be able to forgive that person, let go of that thing. And so if the person's gone out of your life or gone from the planet, maybe you write a letter to them. You don't send it to them, but you say, "Look, here's what happened. Here's how I felt about it, but I'm forgiving you." Done.
Yes.
Done. Move on. And the same applies to forgiving yourself. You know, People do things intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, that were not good. They were harmful, and you have to doing it to yourself. So you have to say, "I'm going to forgive myself. That was a mistake, and it was not good, and I know I caused pain, and I'm going to forgive myself." And by doing that, then you say, "I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to learn from that and turn those mistakes into valuable lessons." Very, very big deal. So, and the third of mine is just learning to let go. So, this was the hardest one for me because I think the way I thought about so much of my life until maybe 15 years ago was I was in control. I was the big guy. So, president of the company, head of my family, all this stuff. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not really in control. I control me. I control four things about me. I control my attitude, and I can control the amount of effort I want to put into something. I certainly can control my actions, and I can control my behavior. Those are things I can control. But the minute I leave my sphere, and I'm talking about other folks, the most I can hope for is to have some influence. I do not control them. And so I began realizing that's the real truth. And it was sobering for me. I was like, okay, wow, all right, that's good. And I do a little exercise. When I first discovered this many years ago, I began doing this exercise. And you might want to do it with me, Randy. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
You hold up your fist. You're holding on to something tightly to see your knuckles,
Yes.
saying, I want to let go of this, but I can't. I can't. So then you turn your fist over, you see the knuckles again, and you say, I want to let go. And maybe, and I joke, maybe because you read my book, Thriving, you figure out, yeah, okay, then you say, I can. I am
Yes.
powerful. I'm going to make
Yes.
that choice. You let go, and your hand rises up because it's no longer weighed down by that heavy thing.
Yes.
And that's the letting go. And I smile whenever I do that. I smile, and it loosens me up, and I've let go of either the thing or a big part of the thing.
I love that exercise. I love exercises like that because I could literally feel, the release that's there. And I've also found that letting go provides a level of peace. And many don't understand that peace doesn't mean that you're not going to have conflicts in your life, but peace provides you this calm assurance that every day, no matter what's going on, that you're at this level and you don't have to get to these levels of anxiety or even depression because of these things that you've been holding on to. You can, release those things. And once you learn to release them, the quicker you release them, the more peace that you continue to exude and live within throughout your life. So thank you for sharing that because I think emotional health becomes the foundation of us to be able to thrive in our lives and be who we need to be. As you have done a lot, it sounds like there's been quite a bit in your process. You've learned a lot, and you've also learned how to fully accept mistakes. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how lessons you've gotten and gleaned from being able to do that?
How much time do we have? Yeah. Part of I think the answer to that is humility. Um, there were times in my life where I did not have as much humility as I wanted, and I would be able to point the finger and say the reason why it didn't work was because that person blew it. That wasn't very honest. Even if I wasn't the majority of the problem, I contributed in some way or another. And so being more humble, more honest has been an enormous thing. Yeah, I mean, it helps that I have broad shoulders. It helps that I've already uh, done a number of things that I think are good and I feel very good about. And I don't need anybody else's feedback to say that was great. I know what they were.
Right.
Uh, so being humble, being honest about it, uh, recognizing that it's a rare situation where it's all me. It's other people who are there either before me, long before me, or right now as part of the enterprise. In my transaction world, I build a team. I build a team and I call out people who've done really good work. I say we couldn't have gotten to this point today without, you know, Joe having done this amazing thing. And it allowed me to do this part and another person do another part. So building team, and I just want to say everybody's contributing. And today, I'm just really recognizing how important Joe's work was. And people go, wow, right. We're part of something important. We're part of something good.
Yes. Part of something
It's,
bigger than what
yeah.
you typically think. Time just goes by quickly. We are almost to the end of this already. One question I do want to ask is how can a person thrive and what are those aspects? And in that, can you give us two or three things for the audience that they should really do immediately that would help them to begin to thrive?
Well, I think thriving is really fundamentally all about making choices. There's choices about how we spend our time, who we spend our time with, what our habits are, and even our feelings. These are choices, Um, and the only way to really know about any of that is to take a look. You got to know yourself. And so my book is got four parts to it. The first part is thriving personally, which is half the book. It's that important. It's that foundational to everything else. The second part is thriving with others. We're talking about relationship. Then it goes on to thriving out in the world. What are you doing to be of service? Are you charitable? Are you philanthropic? Are you, helping your neighbors? Are you sitting on some kind of a board of the, it may be informal, it may be the school, something local, or maybe something bigger. And then thriving as you move forward in life. This idea that we are evolving, that you can make a commitment to being a better person. It's not about comparing yourself to somebody else. It's about comparing yourself to your former self and then saying,
Uh,
man, oh man, I'm liking this person more and more. The great Zig Ziglar. So I say, who here is a Ziggy? And they go, what the hell is a Ziggy? So I say, Zig Ziglar said, be the kind of person where if somebody said something bad about you, no one, no one would believe it.
yes.
Well, that's a high place to be. And I got to say, I think that might be what's happening in my life today. But 20 years ago, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. So there's a lot about thriving in our control. That's the point I want to emphasize. That once you get to know yourself, and it's not a one and done thing, you keep changing. The world around us keeps changing. So you keep discovering. And it's an investment. It takes some work. It's not simple. I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of journaling to get to know myself and to sort out when I'm a little confused and a little conflicted. So I got to take the pieces apart. And I can only do that by having the brain go down my arm to my pen onto the piece of paper. Very, very valuable. I go, oh my God, so this is what it is. Aha. And once I've discovered what's going on, but only then can I start working on solutions.
Rand, this has been an awesome conversation. It seems like we just always run out of enough time. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us about how we can thrive and also about your leadership pieces that you've given us over the 40 years of building a business and sharing that information has been really awesome throughout this whole conversation. Can you share with our audience how they can get in touch with you and potentially how they can get your book?
Absolutely. Thank you, Randy. So my book is available at Amazon, but all the independent stores too. It's available in paperback, ebook, hardcover for anybody who wants that. Um, I am doing the audiobook. I'm reading my own book, but it won't be out probably till the end of the year. So I want it to be really good. Like I think the effort I put into to writing the physical book. It's going to take a little time to do that. You can go to the book website, Rand Selig, Selig, RANDSELIG.com, and you can read more about the book. You can read more about me. You can download quotes, like 3 quotes from every one of the chapters in the book. Those are my favorite quotes. There are a lot of quotes in this book, but those are blockbuster. It's a gift. It's a gift. And some phenomenal testimonials also that you can read. And you can connect with me. If somebody says, oh, I have a question for you, or I'd like to invite you to do something. So people are coming to me through that as well. So
Definitely, everyone connect with Rand. Go out to randselig.com, check out this book and talking about thriving. Thank you, Rand, for being a great participant. And I'm taking away that, I want to thrive. I want to thrive personally. I want to thrive with others that I'm meeting out there and going forward with. I want to thrive as I'm going out and making sure that I'm serving and doing what I need to do to this world. I want to thrive looking forward in this world and what I'm doing. So I'm going to take that under consideration in my daily life so that I can thrive and have all of those aspects working in my life. And most of all, to everyone that we all can produce on purpose.